I think we as gamers have kinda gotten accustomed to being screwed over. Everybody knows the tale of Cyberpunk 2077. Everybody knows the tale of Fallout 76. Well, basically any Bethesda game on launch. Nowadays, you don't have to finish the game, you just ship it and essentially fix it in post, if you ever do fix it. It's all flair, it's all advertising, it's just promises that they're never gonna keep, while they also run with your money. But that's not actually what I want to talk about today. These instances of companies being greedy and essentially false advertising and stuff like that are scams. They make me angry. Today, I want to talk about a games company that actually makes me sad. And I do mean that. I mean that I'm actually sad for this one company. The company that I want to talk about today is BioWare. Now, I think some of you may already know BioWare as a company, but let's do a quick recap. BioWare originally found their fame making games that were story-based and gave the player some kinds of choices that they could make. At this point, I'm talking about games like Baldur's Gate, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Jade Empire. I think there was one before that, I can't recall what it was though. Oh, Neverwinter Nights. They got their fame making games like that. They gave players choices and you could really immerse yourself into the world that you were inhabiting. It was a really neat gaming experience. And then they took their expertise and started making games a bit more mainstream. So at that point you got like Dragon Age Origins, you got Mass Effect, which both kinda evolved into trilogies and sagas that are still going. When I started my main channel on YouTube, my first actual video that kinda hit big with 3,000 views, really big, was a demand from BioWare to remaster Dragon Age Origins. And I stand by that video. It's one of the best games that I've ever played. It's definitely in my top 5, but there are elements of that game that have aged terribly. And I would love a remaster. And BioWare has been doing remasters, kinda. I think people know that they relaunched Mass Effect in the form of Mass Effect the Legendary Edition. And I gotta say, I just played through that on Game Pass and it's barely remastered. I think the biggest element of that remaster is just that they added all the DLC stuff, so you don't have to buy that separately, which is also a huge conundrum in the sense that I paid for all those DLCs back in the day and I couldn't access them as of maybe 2 years ago. I tried playing through Mass Effect 3, my original copy of that game, with all the DLC that I had, but the EA store said that I didn't have it, although I really do know that I actually did have it. But let's get back into it. So BioWare is kind of the story of a company that was kind of slowly corrupted by a publisher. They were bought by EA in 2007, and I recall that even back in the day, people were going like, oh no, this is the end of BioWare. And I was so young back then that I didn't realize what it actually meant. I was kind of like, hey, they're making more money, they get more resources to make their games. Isn't this a win-win? And no, it is definitely not a win-win situation. To me, Dragon Age Origins is the peak of BioWare. I know that people disagree on this point. People love Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic. I think Dragon Age Origins, for me personally, I know that people prefer Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, and Baldur's Gate over it, but I think for me personally, I think it just hit at that perfect time where I was kind of getting into fantasy. It was a bit darker than, Lord of the Rings, and I hadn't read A Song of Ice and Fire yet, so I think it was just perfect, at the perfect time for me personally. And I played that game again and again and again. I've played that game 15 times, making different choices, starting out with different characters, and it's amazing to see how much the game actually reacts to your choices. The thing that I really like about Dragon Age Origins is that you don't actually know if you're making a good choice at any time. You just get this list of 5 different replies to anything, and you have to be the one to actually read the replies, listen to what the other character is saying, and stuff like that. You actually have to pay attention and focus on the game. Now, Mass Effect was kind of different from this because they had that Renegade Paragon system where If you want to be a good guy, just put your cursor up or like up here, and if you want to be a renegade, down here. That's it, basically. And I think this specific thing has led to a lot of bad games in the future. I mean, we can look at like Fallout 4. It uses the kind of same system as the Paragon Renegade, you know, like, you want to be sarcastic or do-do-do-do-do. And it kind of sucks. And I gotta say, like, I understand why games are using that dialogue wheel system. It is simply because it is more friendly to the player. You know, you don't have to read, you don't have to... Everything is voice acted, you don't have to imagine that your character is saying something. So I gotta say, like, I understand it. But what broke my heart was that Dragon Age 2 also took that system. It has a dialogue wheel as far as I recall. I haven't played that game in a long time. And it kind of passed on to Inquisition and stuff like that. It kind of corrupted BioWare's game design from the inside. They saw that Mass Effect was so popular, far more popular than Dragon Age, I'd argue. Just culturally, I see more people talking about Mass Effect than I see people talking about Dragon Age. And I think they saw that we shouldn't make anything that is too complex. People are not gonna like it. It's a niche crowd that actually enjoys RPGs like that, and I'm a part of that niche, apparently. So yeah, I understand why it happened, but I am still pissed off because, to me, Dragon Age Origins was this great beginning for a great universe. It had a great story. The gameplay is turd. But I think that's something that can be fixed with later editions. And I think they did. You know, like, playing Dragon Age Inquisition is much more fluid. You know, you have the spells, they are all flashy and stuff like that. I play as a mage often. They made it more flashy, it's more entertaining, but what they lost was that dialogue system, which I miss so much, honestly. The core of this problem is Mass Effect 2, to be honest. I think that's where they found their voice. That's the quintessential BioWare game, I guess. I mean, I just played through it, and I don't think it has aged that well, to be honest. The way that they were able to essentially just take Gears of War and put that in a sci-fi setting. Gears of War is kind of sci-fi, whatever, let's just move on. The way that they were able to do that kind of transformed BioWare into a different company altogether. And I think that's the beginning of their downfall. Let's look at the more recent examples of BioWare games. You know, they made Mass Effect Andromeda, which I started and I played like, I don't know, I tried to get into it like 5 hours, but I just couldn't get into it. Like, it feels weird to play. And maybe it's because I just finished the Mass Effect trilogy and then jumped into Andromeda, and it just feels different in a not great way. So after BioWare made Andromeda, they made Anthem. And, you know, I haven't played Anthem, so I can't really comment on it, but people say that it's not very good. I can't comment on why, but, you know, the word of mouth for that game is that it was a kind of a flop. People didn't really enjoy it. Reception, 7 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 55%, 5 out of 10. On Metacritic, it's 59 out of 100. On PS4, 54 out of 100. And Xbox One, 65 out of 100. Anthem failed to meet Electronic Arts' sales expectations. With a target set at 6 million copies to be sold by the end of March, EA CEO Andrew Wilson said Anthem did not reach the sales goal, while EA CFO, Jesus Christ, this is difficult, Blake Jorgensen admitted that more money was expected to come from the game's microtransactions as well. So once again, microtransactions ruin everything. No, but I'm just gonna check here. Like, I think this is the latest game that they have published or made. So yeah, the latest game that they have made is Anthem and Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which kind of sucked. Let's be honest here, the Legendary Edition is barely a remaster. So the next games that they should be dropping are Dragon Age, Dreadwolf, and a new Mass Effect game. So that's gonna be Mass Effect 4. And I have to say that I am very disappointed with this company just because, like, they started out as a company that was all about narrative and choices. That's the quintessential BioWare experience. Immerse yourself into the interesting world that exists and just make choices in it. And I think they've failed. Honestly, I think they lost their focus on things that don't really matter. I haven't heard a single person recommend the story of Anthem. I don't know even what the story is. I think it's set in space. It's all about people in Iron Man suits, like stuff like that. But what really happened? Because, like, I think Dragon Age Origins is a great start point. And the fact that they have been developing a Dragon Age game for like 10 years at this point. When did Inquisition come out? Inquisition came out in 2014. That's 9 years ago. What happened? Why did developing a new Dragon Age game take 9 years and it's not even released yet? So might be 10 years, 11 years, 12 years. And honestly, like, I liked Inquisition. I know I'm in the minority there, but I really like that game and I am invested in that world. And it disappoints me greatly that I feel like they're not really taking care of the property like I thought they could do. And honestly, it feels like, who cares about Dragon Age at this point? Like, honestly, I love Dragon Age. And depending on the reviews, I'm gonna play the Dragon Age Dreadwolf game whenever it comes out, if it ever comes out. Who actually cares at this point? It's been such a long time, and it's not like you're waiting for a new Tool album. You can just get into it by listening music. This is story. And Inquisition leaves off on a cliffhanger that is supposed to continue with Dreadwolf, I suppose. But who cares? I think it's been such a long time that I can't even remember the names of the characters anymore. So what's the point, honestly? I hate to come off as very cynical about this, and I understand, like, developing games is probably very difficult in a changing market where, you know, story-based games aren't selling what they used to sell. Unless you're Naughty Dog. But, like, everyone is moving on to, like, you gotta have a battle pass, you gotta have online multiplayer, you gotta have a battle royale mode. Even battle royale seems to be kind of struggling at this moment. Nobody knows what is coming next. I think everyone is kind of like looking at the games development cycle at this point like, don't make anything story-based. It's not gonna get enough players. Just make a free-to-play MOBA or free-to-play battle royale. Actually, MOBA is a very dead genre at this point. When was the last time that a MOBA was released? Anyway, no, it just saddens me. It honestly saddens me that BioWare has kind of become this company that has gone from making some of the best narrative games that I've ever played into a company that doesn't really make games anymore. And even if they do manage to make a game, it's not gonna be like it used to. What a cynical note to end on, but yeah, thanks. Subscribe to my channel and the main channel. Yeah.